I don't know if you have any kind of earbuds.
We're pitching up a channel, bringing smiles to the world. We're hitting first base. Marty Lurie with friends. Home run, you know the ways and the trends of stories, all with the match of the block. It's Marty and friends. Marty and friends.
I love it.
All right.
That is Ruby Barmay with our opening song as she does each week with us. I love it. It's terrific to hear it. Hey, it's great to be with everybody. It is 2025. The baseball season is starting up. Things are happening every day now. And it's time to start talking ball, which we're going to do more of. On KMBR, we're going to be on Sundays. And our first show is February 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific. But tonight, it's great to be here. I'm in Arizona. We're joined tonight by two really good baseball people. One is Paul White, who was the founder of the USA's Baseball Weekly. And Paul and I have been talking baseball for, 25 years at least. So, Paul, nice to have you with us. There he is. Okay.
Great to be here.
Yeah, great. All right. I guess Paul can hear. All right. The other is Eric. And of course, Eric is a longtime caller to the show. When I did the post-game and pre-game on KMBR for the Giants in 2010, and I'd be on till midnight. And Eric from Beale Air Force Base was always on. Well, now he's got his own show. He's a regular on YouTube, and we're really happy to have him on the show tonight. So, Eric, nice to have you with us.
Marty, thanks. Appreciate being on here, man. Just love talking baseball. I love doing it, man. We did it for like a decade on KMBR every weekend during the baseball season, man. It was like clockwork. And Paul, it's great to meet you. Looking forward to talking some baseball here.
All right, cool. Paul, let's start with you. If you can hear me and everything else. Yesterday we had the Hall of Fame announcement. No shock for Ichiro, and somebody didn't vote for him. Is that a big deal?
Well, only in the sense that, look, we all, the hundreds of us that get to vote, we all have our different versions of who we think should get in and why. So I'm not going to sit here and question anybody else's votes, but I'd love to hear the reason. I'm really curious why they thought this guy, Ichiro was not at least a first ballot. I mean, I've never gotten the whole concept of first ballot versus others, but some people feel strongly that way. But in this case, I think the one big negative of this is there are enough people out there who want to criticize the voters in general anyway, and this gives them just all kinds of ammunition. That's all you've heard for a day and a half. What kind of idiot does something like that? And we don't know who the person is. That's another thing that bothers me. If you want to make that call, that's fine. But stand up and let's hear why.
Yeah, that's coming, I think, that the vote is going to be more transparent. But when no.
Yeah. Well, the baseball writers asked several years ago for the Hall of Fame to display all the votes after the voting is over, and the Hall of Fame turned us down.
Interesting. Well, we'll see what happens. But he's in. He's a fabulous player. He's got more hits combined in Japan and the U.S. than anybody. I saw him throw out Terrence Long at the Coliseum, which is one of the first things he did, and you went, wow. And he did it, a bullet from right field, and threw Terrence Long out at third. I'll never forget that. So good. He deserves it. One of the greats of all time. CC Sabathia.
Let me tell you.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you my favorite Ichiro moment, though. I mean, we all know the things he does so well. But Ken Griffey Jr. used to tell me all the time, oh, this guy can do a lot more than we even see. And my favorite moment was a September game in Seattle against the Yankees. They went to the ninth inning tied. Ichiro leads off against Mariano Rivera and hits the first pitch 400 plus feet into the right field seats. It's like, okay, you want to see what else I can do here?
Yeah. Hey, look, there's the spring training story with Lou Piniella, and the Mariners, and Ichiro's there, and he's slapping everything to left field. And Lou Piniella says, in the way he talks, "Yeah, can the guy pull the ball at all?" And Ichiro turns around, and the next two at bats, home runs, just drilled to right field, just crushed.
Right.
He crosses the plate, and of course they say, "Well, I guess he can pull the ball." So that was a good one. I remember that spring training. Eric, what about you? An Ichiro moment for you?
How about the 2007 All-Star game in what was it? Well, AT&T Park. It was still I think it was AT&T Park at that time. Yeah, hits a damn home run in Oracle Park in a place that you don't see a whole lot of home runs, and he does it on the biggest stage. As far as TV viewers is concerned, because the All-Star game, of course, is nationally televised. So yeah, that was a moment that you will never forget as far as Ichiro. Unassuming man, but again, the guy could play some baseball, and he had the pop as well.
Yeah, and the thing for me is, in our generation, this generation, we've seen one of the greatest baseball players who ever played the game. You put him in 1900, he's Ty Cobb. You put him in 1940, he's Stan Musial. He could have fit anywhere, and he was one of the great ones. So I think it's good. It's going to be a nice celebration. Look, Richie Allen is going in too. And so is Dave Parker and Ichiro. That's some pretty good offensive firepower, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad for Richie, or Dick Allen, as he wanted to be called at the end of his career. I think he was a guy who really got overlooked back at the time. I think there was, back when he was on the ballot, I think there was still a lot of backlash for guys who were willing to speak up, especially players of color who were willing to speak up. And they had a real difficult time with a lot of people in baseball. And Richie was one of those guys, took his share of flack in Philadelphia, tough enough town to play in. And I think he fell into a category, in a sense, with guys like Bobby Bonds and others who weren't afraid to stand up for what they thought was right. And there were a lot of people in baseball that just really rubbed the wrong way back in those days. And I'm really glad to see that he get in. And same thing for Dave Parker, a different kind of guy, but just such an imposing offensive force when he was at the height of his career.
Yeah. CC Sabathia, he's the new of our generation, 250 wins, whatever it is. And, a dominant pitcher, one Cy Young. But he was a guy that if you gave him the ball, he wasn't giving it back to you until he was absolutely done. And one of the greatest of this generation. Verlander is going to be the same type, just like him when he goes in. So I'm glad for CC, Paul.
Yeah, I think one of the good things, too, is we're starting to see that transition away from raw numbers. We've seen that in the last decade or so in awards voting, Cy Young voting, and the game has changed. The numbers have changed. You can't just say he had 500 home runs, he's in, or he won 250 games, or used to be 300. He's in. Well, it's different. You have to compare guys with their peers. You don't compare them with the numbers of guys who got voted in 30 years ago, because they all played in different eras and they played really different games. So I think this is, even though CC was a big innings guy, I still think this is a big step forward for all those guys in that mid-range of the low 200s and pitching victories. How many more of those guys will get another look now? It used to be, well, won 210. That's nothing. He doesn't deserve it. Well, maybe he did if you compare it, because you're right. I mean, Verlander, Scherzer, they're the last guys left now who are going to have even numbers even close to the things like CC had. There's not going to be anybody like that anymore.
No, Greinke, I guess you can throw him in there, possibly too.
Right.
Yeah. Eric, let's go to Billy Wagner. Is it a surprise? It's always so tough to figure out if a reliever belongs in the Hall of Fame. They make a big deal about it, but you look at his strikeouts per 9 innings, the amount of saves, the batting average against,
right?
And then, you're talking about the great, better than anybody in a couple of those categories. So for Billy Wagner, good for him.
Why not? Absolutely. And I saw some of the footage that they had tweeted out. It was great. Great moment there. He was sitting there getting a phone call from the Hall of Fame. But the guy, seeing a guy, coming from the left-hand side, throwing as hard as he did. I mean, God, could you imagine what it must have been like stepping in a box against someone like that? I mean, the guy was just, he was a country hardball, right? You know what's coming. Here it comes. And let's see if he can try to hit it. So it's great to see some relievers get some recognition, because again, that's a specific type of job you have to do in the major leagues, right? If a lot of people say, hey, the toughest 3 outs is in that ninth inning. So for him to have success in that time frame of the game, hey, all the credit to him. It's great to see him.
Yeah, Paul, Billy Wagner. Do we about him here?
Yeah, well, Billy's been my favorite on the ballot for a long time, because when I back in December, I shared my ballot, as I do every year, with Ryan Thibodeau, who does the Hall of Fame tracker, and he sent me a note when I sent it to him that among people who have revealed their votes, that Jose Ortiz, who's been a beat writer in Houston for decades, and I are the only 2 guys who voted for Billy 10 consecutive years. So I've been on that bandwagon from the beginning. And you're right, it's the dominance. It's just ridiculous. And I got to see him play an awful lot. And my still favorite moment was sitting in the dugout in Houston one day, and he was signing some balls with his right hand. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm right-handed." I said, "No, you're not." And he goes, "Oh, yes, I am. The only thing I do left-handed is throw a baseball." And the stories were told a million times, but when he was 6 and 7 years old, 2 summers in a row, he broke his right arm roughhousing with his cousins. And that was the time he was learning to play baseball. So I picked it up with the hand that wasn't in a sling and started firing.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Very good.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
All right. Very good. Well, that's the Hall of Fame. So we'll be able to celebrate that in July. Tom Boswell got the Writers Award for Excellence and beat out Bruce Jenkins, which breaks my heart again for the 3rd year. So Bruce is, his 3rd time is it, I think. And then the other thing this week, of course, the loss of the great Bob Uecker. What a week. That's what I was saying. Baseball's in the news just about every day on some level. And Bob Uecker, 90 years old, passes away. And he did the playoffs last year. He was right there. Mm-hmm. And Bob Uecker, one of the great guys, a little acerbic in later life, a little bit. But a movie star, a great ambassador for baseball. So I'll go to Paul first on Bob Uecker.
Yeah, one of a kind. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, you're right. He had, I'm not going to say multiple personalities, but there were so many sides of him. He knew what he meant to people in Milwaukee. He knew what the game meant to him. You're right. He could be a little crusty at times, but at the same time, he'd turn around in the next sentence and he'd have you doubled over laughing. Just something he said off the top of his head. There's a lot of guys who have made broadcasting and media careers after they've played the game, and so often it seems like, are they reading from a script? It's like, this just was off the cuff. I mean, this was the real guy. And I think that genuineness is what endeared him to all of us. It's like, you knew he wasn't on stage. He was just being Bob Uecker.
Yeah. Yeah. For the Milwaukee Brewers the whole time. Amazing. I love the story. And what did you sign for? And he said, I don't know, $10,000. And he said, that's all my parents could afford to give the Braves to sign me. So it's one of the better stories. Eric, Bob Uecker for you.
Oh, it's funny how you talk about Bob Uecker, because when I was a kid, the thing I remember Bob Uecker, it wasn't even baseball. It's kind of sad. I always remember him on the Miller commercials. You'd be watching TV, right in the front row. And that just resonated in my ears for over and over, because, anytime you watch TV, that Miller commercial was coming up. But as far as to piggyback on what Paul says, that's what I love about radio guys on baseball, because you got to describe what is going on to the audience that aren't watching it with their eyes. You're basically having to visualize with their words on what they're trying to explain with the game. And then when you throw in the humor on top of that, you become relatable. You become one of the guys, so to speak. And there's something about that just transcends even just baseball. It's just it's a guy coming through your radio, telling you about the game, and then keeping you entertained. It was absolutely fantastic. I love Bob Uecker.
Yeah, well, the whole thing of broadcasting, and Paul, you're inviting the broadcaster into your home to have dinner with you every night, to watch the game with you. And that was Richie Ashburn, as you know, and Harry Callis, and people like that. So so Ueck was that. He was that for the people in Milwaukee and Wisconsin and everything else. So good life. He had a good life. So good for him. I guess the big thing for me, and I'm glad to be able to do the show with you guys this week, and the Dodgers. Let's face it, they're just signing everybody they can. This Tanner Scott, the lefty, they signed for $70 million. Some of it deferred. Kirby Yates, they picked up now, the 38-year-old reliever. Had a good year last year. So the big question is, in baseball, and Ken Rosenthal kicked it around today as well, should there be a salary cap in baseball? Now, the players' union will never agree to it. I mean, they'll never agree to it, and you can't have a strike over it. But should there be more of a luxury tax? Should there be something at the floor to make sure they spend so much money? Because right now we're getting into the oligarchs. You know what I mean? We hear that word a lot these days.
Yes.
And sort of getting that way with the Dodgers and the Mets now, and the Phillies, and teams like that. So that's the issue. I'll throw it out to you guys. Eric, why don't you start with it?
It's great, because I've never seen an off season like how the Dodgers have had. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. And of course, about almost all those contracts are deferred. So again, it's something different we're seeing in baseball, right? We're seeing a lot of, and then look, it's not something new. Deferred money's been around for a long time, but I think it's just the amount of how much of it's being deferred these days. I mean, the Guggenheims, they can afford it. I mean, it's not like it's not going to be like it was with what's his name in Arizona, where when he turned it over. Gosh, I can't remember what his name was. The first
Frank McCourt.
No. It was the Arizona Diamondbacks owner. Can't remember what his name was, but when he turned it over to Hazen, I think it was Hazen. I can't remember who the owner was, but he handcuffed the team because they couldn't pay for everything.
Yeah.
So again, we're getting to the money stuff, and man, as you said, with the players union, you're just not going to be able to get that through. But maybe you can penalize a little bit more with the CBT, because it seems like it's not mattering to Cohen, it's not mattering to LA, it's not mattering to the Yankees or as you said, the Philadelphia Phillies. Definitely need a floor, because you got to have teams right. If you're owning a baseball team, you got some money. I'm not saying you got to go pay $805 million, to a Juan Soto, but you should be able to go out there and spend some money. I mean, it's as a fan, it's hard to see, especially when you're rooting for a team, when they're making quite a bit of money, to see your team not really get involved per se. But
all right,
it's a tough decision as far as at a cap.
Let's see, Paul, what do you think? You've been around a while. You've watched baseball. We have had 4 different winners the last 4 World Series. It's just teams that get in. There's just a finite group that seems to always get in. Now, they don't always win because that's a crazy tournament that they have to, play miniature golf and hit the ball through the clown's nose and out, a snake. That's what they set up for a tournament. But what about what it's doing to the game if you're a fan in a city that, it's really uphill to get in the playoffs?
Well, if you go historically, it's not anywhere near as bad as it was. Well, I'm going to say when I was a kid, okay, when the Yankees bought everything, and I don't mean the Steinbrenner era, where there was free agency and the Yankees were being accused of doing the same things, and they had relative success, but not constant success. But if you go back to the pre-draft and pre-free agency Yankees, they won every year. It was like, and when I was a kid, I was born in 1950. When I was a kid, only twice, and until I was about, 11, 12 years old, did the Yankees not win the pennant. They won every year. There was like the Go-Go White Sox, a supposed miracle team with Luis Aparicio. They won one. The 54 Cleveland Indians won one and immediately got swept. They were a super team, supposedly. Got swept by the Giants with the Willie Mays over the shoulder catch, etc. But it's been worse. Now, I'm not saying that this is great for baseball, but if there's going to be anything that comes from the players' union, no, there's never going to be a salary cap. The game will shut down before that happens. But is there a tipping point where the players themselves say, we play for these 29 other teams, we don't like what the Dodgers are doing. What can we do to kind of balance this out? Again, it'll have to be some sort of financial penalties. But if you have unlimited financial resources, I don't know. Will there be enough internal pressure from the players to go to their leadership and say, no, not a salary cap, but we've got to build something in here. The problem is whenever the Dodgers give out a contract that as they say, rising tide raises all ships. When the salaries go up, that means the guys down in the middle of the pack, their salaries go up. Arbitration awards go up. And the union has always been pretty tough on the players. Don't do anything to break that because you all benefit from it. So I think it's going to be cyclical in a sense. And then like Marty described, the playoffs, hey, the Dodgers can still lose the best of 5 as well as anybody at this point. But jokingly, I like to blame Andrew Friedman. This is Andrew Friedman striking back for having to try to win in Tampa Bay for all those years. So, watch this.
Yeah, you're right. It's funny you said, I was thinking about it. From 1920 till 1964, really, the Yankees owned the league. They owned the American League, but they needed the American League needed it because they needed the Yankees and the Stars to lift up all the other teams. The Tigers once in a while had something, the Red Sox once in a while. But basically, it was the Yankees who owned the American League for that period of time. So we've always had it. And that's just the way baseball's worked. And I don't think baseball is going to change. But we're getting to a point in life where the playing field has got to be a little more even, to give everybody a chance. And I think we're experiencing that maybe as a country, maybe as some of our political issues. You don't want everything to be no chance to get something done. And you want a chance. So maybe baseball has to get that way. I don't know. That's just a random thought.
Well, I think the other piece of this, and you're going right down that road, is that in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, there was nothing else besides baseball. The only other sports that were anywhere close were horse racing and boxing. at that point for public attention. Well, there's a lot of other things out there right now. And if baseball gets boring, if baseball gets predictable, no, they're not going to all flock to say, oh, the Dodgers are in town, let's go watch. No, they're going to turn something else on. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to pay attention to something else. And I think that's what would get baseball's attention. And I mean baseball in terms of the union, in terms of ownership. If they see public interest start to deteriorate because of this, then they're going to have to react to it.
Okay. All right. But it's a good issue. Toronto. And Paul, you're close to Toronto. Paul, you're back east. It seems like every free agent, every one of them, they're the bridesmaid, and they finally got someone yesterday, Santander, from the Orioles, who's been out there for a while. But you got to feel for the Blue Jays. I mean, look at Sasaki. Come on, was he going to Toronto? I don't think so.
No.
And I feel for the Toronto fans, they're sort of like the Giant fans.
Yeah.
They kind of get played a little bit.
The East Coast version of the Giants. That's what they are.
Well, Toronto, in a way, thought they had a chance with some of the Japanese players because, I mean, if you spend time in Toronto, I mean, my three favorite cities on the road for my entire career were Boston, San Francisco, and Toronto. Toronto is underrated until you're there. Americans tend to go, oh, it's in Canada. Well, go there and spend some time, and it's fabulous. It's wonderful. And players who go there love it. We see the same thing in the NBA. Guys go up there and play, and they go, oh my gosh, look at this place is great. And it has a very vibrant, cosmopolitan, diverse community. You go to events there other than hockey. If you go to basketball, to baseball, the diversity in the crowd in terms of Asians and Europeans and people from the Caribbean, it's amazing, more so than almost any city, probably outside of New York. So, I think Toronto kept feeling if they could sell the Asian community that was there and available to those players. They tried to do it with Yamamoto last year too. I think they thought they had a chance, that it would be a little different. And they tried to convince these guys, our marketing, you own an entire country if you're the best player on the Blue Jays. You're not just buying the LA area, you're buying an entire country's marketing, because every game is nationally telecast in Canada. It's not like your regional telecast of a Giants game or a Diamondbacks game. So they felt like they had these selling points, but you're right. They haven't been able to get guys to do it.
Now we'll see what happens with Vladdy.
That's
where he goes, which brings me to Pete Alonso of the Mets. And now that's another big, Bregman is still out there. Alonso is out there. The Giants have already said, look, we like Wade. We like Flores. That's what we're going to do at first base. That's what they've said. They have this kid, Eldridge, who is down here in Arizona working out right now. Bob Melvin was on the radio today talking about him. He's got a big bat, big kid, big bat. And he also has a lot of defensive work to do. He's not ready for the big leagues. And, he's going to have a full season in minor league ball. But that's their first baseman of the future. So David Stearns runs the Mets. Cohen, who owns the Mets, he can have anything he wants. If he wants you, he'll pay. They don't want Pete Alonso in New York. They don't want him. And he's still going to be on the market, and somebody's going to end up with him for 3 years at 70 or something like that, and with an option in there. But it's probably not going to be the Giants. But I'll tell you one thing, I don't think it's going to be the Mets. And Paul, what do you think of that?
I tend to agree, except that this thing could be getting priced down to a point where the Mets say, sure, okay. But they've put a number on Scott Boris's desk. He knows what it is, and they're not going to budge. They don't need to. And I think what happens here is when you get a high-profile guy like that, teams find themselves almost bidding against themselves. Like, oh, how much is he worth? Well, this other team is willing to give this much. And you go back and forth and back and forth. It reminds me years ago at in a winter meetings, Doug Melvin was the GM of the Texas Rangers. And we were sitting in the back of the room when a team that he had been bidding against was introducing their new free agent signing. And I said to him, how do you feel about this? He goes, last night I got to the point I said, I'm going back. I'm being told, oh, they just upped it by, $5,000. He goes, all of a sudden I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't want to name the player because it'll embarrass him, but it was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? He's a nice player, but I'm wrapped up in this competition for him, and it doesn't make any sense. And I think we're just seeing more and more of that. And I think, Scott Boras has been the master of playing teams off each other. I mean, in the middle of this Alonso thing, it was a few weeks ago, there was this crazy report out of nowhere that the Angels were suddenly in the Alonso bidding. No, they weren't. Boras threw that out there to a reporter he knew that would float it out there for him. Okay. He's desperate at this point. He's misread the market 2 years in a row. He thinks he can get the egos of owners and GMs to go out and make a bad deal, and they're just not doing it anymore.
Eric, what do you think about Alonso for the Giants? Even with everything I said and everything else.
Right. He would be a great bridge. I mean, his glove is a cinder block, right? His feet are in cement. He has no range, but he's got that bat, and of course it will play in Oracle Park. Well, he's one of the few guys in Oracle Park that can take or do some damage in Oracle Park. I think he would be a great bridge, to Eldridge. Then you don't have to worry about rushing Eldridge. Give him his time. You don't have to rush him. Pete Alonso can suffice for a year. Next year, hey, throw him as a DH. That to be a fantastic DH. But again, if anything, if the Giants are to get him, it's probably going to be one of those Boras specials, right? It's going to be a 3-year contract, maybe with 3 opt-outs or 2 opt-outs, I should say. So would it be nice for the San Francisco Giants? I think it would. I think the Giants probably need to add a bat. I think Buster Posey has even said that they wanted to add a bat. But are they going to be able to work with Boras? And would Pete even want to come out west? Because again, he's a free agent. He could decide where he wants to go. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love to.
Not if he doesn't have a lot of choices.
Yeah, there you go, and that's the thing. Maybe
he's turned down 7 at 150 at some point from the Mets.
Right,
he's turned down a lot of money. I'd love to see him with the Giants.
Yeah,
I'd love to see him. I think he shows up. If there's 162 games in the schedule, he's showing up for 160 of them.
Yes,
and he plays. He's a winner, and he's a power hitter. And if you like Verlander, and he's a $15 million coach, maybe, but if you like Verlander and you're rolling the dice with him, hoping he's healthy and gets out of spring training healthy and gives you a dozen starts and have fun with him, he's a Hall of Famer. If you like that, which most people do, how can you not like Alonso?
It's a great point, Marty. That's a great point.
Paul, that's where I go with that.
Yeah, I think basically the market is now putting a bunch more teams in the running for Pete Alonso. How much pride can he swallow to take what kind of deal he ends up getting? I don't know. I mean, the Giants are one of those teams. I mean, Seattle needs him badly. I'm sure he doesn't want to go there because he thinks his numbers will suffer there. I mean, they would, same thing. But again, I'm not going to call him one-dimensional. He's more than that. But he's not the full product. He's not the guy, he's not the Juan Soto with all the tools, okay? He's got deficiencies. So teams have put a value on that, and the value comes nowhere near close to what Pete Alonso and Scott Boras thought the value would be. Whether or not they think that's his real value, they thought that would be the going market rate for this guy, and they're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see him end up here. I would. I think it would be great for the Giants. And you're right. takes the pressure off Eldridge. He's a winner.
Yep.
He's a winner.
And then maybe the Giants could start maybe getting into that wild card talk. It's on paper right now. I've been saying, hey, they're as they're currently constructed, they're mid 500 team. That's what I'm guessing. It could be a few games above.
79.5.
Yeah, I know. So I know.
So if the Reds or like that.
There's going to be a lot of teams competing for that NL wild card, no doubt about it. And the Giants, they may or may not be in that mix. We'll have to see, as the season progresses. But yeah, Pete Alonso at first base for a year and Bridge, and then if he likes it here, maybe he could figure something out and he could be your DH. I'd much rather have him as your everyday DH than having as a revolving door, so to speak.
Yeah, Wade and Flores is where they're going. Rick Brown on our chat here says Jerry Colangelo. Is that the name?
Him.
Is that the
Jerry
name?
Colangelo.
Yeah, he threw that in for you. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But the Verlander situation. I think the Giants have enough pitching. Verlander is a bonus. If as I say, if he gets out of spring training healthy, everyone should be excited. But you got Robbie Ray. This is a team that they only ask the starter for 5 or 6 innings. That's it. Robbie Ray can do that. They've got Webb, who certainly can do that. They've got Verlander potentially, to do that. They've got Hicks, who can do that. They've got Kyle Harrison as the 5th starter. That's pretty good. They've got 3 or 4 other guys. Landon Roop is another one. Jelly, I'll throw his name in there. I think the Giants have enough pitching. It's just like Eric says, Paul, there are 9 or 10 teams for 6 spots. And once you get past the first 3 or 4 who look pretty solid, it's pretty wide open of 6 teams for a couple of spots.
Yeah, I agree. I think, all right, if we give the Dodgers the division right now, Padres, Diamondbacks were 2-3 or 3-2, and probably both wild card teams. You're going to get at least one wild card out of the East. Phillies, Braves. I think the Mets have a lot to prove till they figure out what they have. They could be a disaster this year. And then you're going to have the Central winner, whoever that may be, and then you're right. Everything else is a mix. There's at least one more spot there. Maybe another team or 2 in the Central is in that just a little bit over 500 range. I put the Giants in that. I thought Cincinnati would make a step forward last year. They were very disappointing. But there aren't the teams that are weak are still very weak. Washington, Colorado, Miami, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's going to be a little bit better, but that would be a huge leap for them to jump into the playoff race. I think, for that last spot could end up being an 84-win team easily this year in the National League.
Then once you get in, it's a matter of pitching. If you got the horse,
if you can pitch. I still maintain, if you look at the American League, Seattle never gets in the playoffs, but if they ever do, they could run the table.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they can pitch.
Because that pitching. And the Dodgers, they were 1 loss away last year.
Come on.
Those Padres, they couldn't do it for me. Just 1 win.
They had them. Let's jump to the Padres.
But I think that's what the Dodgers are doing. The Dodgers know they're susceptible in a short series and that they're pitching. They don't get a lot out of their starting pitching, and that's what this bullpen stuff is all about. They're gonna go 4 innings with their starters in the postseason, and you're gonna see a parade every night. And that's how they think they can get by their biggest deficiency.
It's not good for baseball. It's not a good baseball game. It's like watching all these football games in the snow. It was kind of interesting for the first one. Hey, they're playing in the snow. Let's see what it looks like. But if you watch enough of these games, they're not good games anymore. The teams can't do anything. It used to be, wow, man, he's going to kick a field goal in the snow. That's wild. Now it's every week you got it, and it's no fun. So baseball.
Careful, Marty.
I know.
Careful, I'm in Buffalo. I got a foot of snow outside my door.
I know. Hey, first of all, we love doing the show. Marty Lurie and Friends Talking Baseball. One of our dear sponsors is Rick Robben, and he's up in Napa. He's one of the best contractors up there. He's been with us on the show here, and he just gets stuff done. And the thing I like about Rick, and we'll play the commercial that we use for him, but the thing that I like about Rick is he takes care of everything. And in life, when you can find someone that you hire, you say, okay, you take care of everything, and he puts it together for you. That's gold for me. So Rick Robben, we love having you as a sponsor up in Napa. And Ryan, if you're ready, let's hear from Rick. It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robben this year. Rick Robben, ROBBEN, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are nose to grain units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
Oh, you call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robben Construction, Napa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robben Construction, Napa.com. It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robben this year. It's a lot of fun that we have with Rick, and we'll have him on the show, too. Sponsors are very important, Paul. You've been on with me for 25 years, Original Joe's here. They have the new restaurant opening up in Walnut Creek in a few more months. We have the Inn at the Tides and the Tides Wharf restaurant up in Bodega Bay with Gene Bagato. Georgie Brothers Furniture is part of us. River Islands is something that we work with. There's just so many of them that we enjoy working with. And that's what makes it fun for me, because they sponsor this show as well as the KMBR show. So it's fun. So that's what we do. All right. Paul White is with us. Paul, it's great to have him here, and we'll let him go. He's back east, so I know it's a little later for him. But he, of course, was the creator of the USA Today Baseball Weekly and a real solid baseball man. And, of course, Eric from Beale Air Force Base. Eric, you have your own show now. What is it?
I do. Giant Sports Talk Live. We go on every night between 8 and 8:30. Every night. I think I've missed one show since we launched back in July 31st. We go on every night. I tell you, Marty, I kind of got this from you. I mean, you did these marathon shows on the weekend, and I loved the format, because you'd always have the callers come in, hear what they have to say, and you're just sitting around. It's basically, and I think you talk about that in your Original Joe's spot with Bruce, where it's just a couple of guys sitting around talking some baseball. And this YouTube is absolutely fantastic. I'll interact with the chat, see what they have to say. I'll throw out the link, have guys come on, and we just sit around talking baseball.
Wow. Every night. Paul, I'm impressed. I must tell you. All right.
Great to be young.
Yeah, very good. All right, a couple more before we say goodbye, and we'll be back. We're going to try it. We'll, as I say, February 23rd on Sunday from Scottsdale, but we'll try to do one a week if we can. Then once the season starts, not every night, but certainly once during the middle of the week, we'll do something like this to catch up on Giants baseball and all sorts of baseball. What do you think about Sasaki and the international money? Should there be an international draft? And the fact that Sasaki took the Dodgers, and it looks like they say, remember the guy with the gyro slider or whatever it was? Oh, was it Matsuzaka?
Daisuke.
Yeah, Daisuke.
Yeah, Daisuke Matsuzaka.
Yeah, he was good, but nothing like we thought. And this guy, they're talking the same way. Is he that good?
Well, we don't know yet. I mean, obviously, but I think the fact that he's coming this much younger, I think, is sort of a breakthrough, because one of the big deterrents to an international draft, I mean, that's been kicked around in CBA negotiations for a couple of decades, but that's mostly to deal with players from the Caribbean. You know, Puerto Rico was brought into it. It's got to be more than 10, 15 years ago, maybe more. And there's talk, should there be Dominicans, Venezuelans, etc. The argument there is teams would no longer put money into the academies that really help these kids grow, not only as players, but to adapt if they are going to come over here and play. But the Japanese issue has been, in Japan, you just didn't even consider playing somewhere outside of Japan until you had gone through the process in Japan. I mean, Ohtani was huge in Japan because he was willing to break the mold and say, no, I want to go over to the U.S. and play. You know, there have been teams that for years have nosed around trying to get young kids, high school phenoms in Japan, to say, come to the U.S., make yourself available, and grow in the U.S. system. And really, as a matter of honor, they just wouldn't do it. And the amount of societal pressure in Japan to not break away from that. And that's where we ended up coming up with the posting system. I think we're going to eventually, gradually see that erode. Shohei was part of it. Sasaki's another big piece of it, coming over at age 23. It's going to gradually break down. And then I think we've got a chance at an international draft. But at the same time, the Japanese leagues are going to say, you're going to destroy our leagues. Our best players won't even play in our leagues. And, you know, how far do you go and say, it's Major League Baseball, oh, we don't care. We want your best players. Well, you know, there's a certain responsibility there to help their product succeed too.
Yeah, good point.
Right.
Yeah, baseball's always run after the cheapest labor. And if they can turn the Japanese market into cheaper labor, where they're not paying these exorbitant prices, they would probably try to do that. But yeah, it's a good point. And we'll see. Something's got to be done with the deferred money. Of course, deferred, you know, I know you have to have so much capital versus deferred money. There's some ratio that you have to have. But boy, this deferred money, if you can have a strong business and say, you know, I don't care if we defer money in 15 years because our business will still be strong, that's a great advantage. And maybe that's the issue in this whole Dodger thing and everything else, is that they can spend $700 million, or Soto can get $800 million, but so much of it is deferred that the ball club is now knocking Pittsburgh and Kansas City, Texas, and all these other teams out of it. Maybe the deferred money is where you got to tighten it up, Eric. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's right, because if you could sit there and defer all this money, just like with the Dodgers, and I think the reason why it's so much, you know, you got Shohei Ohtani who's deferred, what is it, $690 million worth of his contract, you know, and again, it wasn't because of the club. That's something I guess he broached to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers said, okay, yeah, hey, we'll do that, because he didn't want to handcuff the team. But yeah, maybe something needs to be done on how much you can defer. Maybe you're only allowed to defer so much. Again, just to, as you said earlier, Marty, maybe to keep that even playing field. Again, and I'll say this before, you know, owners are not poor. We could use the San Francisco Giants. You know, last year during a broadcast, they're talking about Mission Rock. You know what they're developing that thing out, and that's costing a pretty penny. But you can't sit there and cry as poor and say, oh well, we can't go over the CBT because of, it's like, well, you can, but you're choosing not to. It doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, right? That's not what I'm advocating, but there could be a point in time where, hey, yeah, maybe we got to succeed a couple of years, and then we could get back under it and, then maybe work through our farm. But yeah, I think deferred money needs to be looked at. I think it does.
All right. Well, we'll see. It's a good topic for now, but spring training is coming up. And once the bat hits the ball, you kind of forget about all this kind of stuff.
That is true.
And you start thinking about, you got enough bullpen, who's hurt, who's the young kid in spring training that looks good and stuff like that. So, Paul, we'll let you go. Paul White, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Oh, it's great, Marty. Glad to talk to you.
Yeah, good.
Take care, Paul.
And I'll root for the Bills. I'm like Mad Dog.
I sat through that game with the 49ers in row 7.
I've seen enough of the Chiefs. Let's put it that way.
Me too. We have too.
Thanks, Paul. All right. That is Paul White. A lot of people on the chat saying nice things about you, Eric, and they're glad that you're on, and we're glad to have you on.
What's up, Drake?
Robbie Duval, of course. Robbie is very loyal, and
Robbie, he's a great guy, man. I love that guy.
Hello to him.
He's good. What's up, Robbie? And I see Cole is out there. Yeah.
So a lot of people that we enjoy talking to, but this Dodger thing. All right, I guess you got to concede the division, pretty much. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. The Padres are in the middle of an ownership problem.
Right.
You got that going on. They haven't signed anybody. Who knows what they're going to want to get rid of and get out of contracts, because they may want to sell the team to one of the brothers, and they may want to try to reduce the obligations to get a better price. So the Padres are worth watching here. Padres could end up to be a story.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they have a TV deal, and that's a lot of money. I mean, we talk about with the Dodgers, that's something that they have a huge benefit in that TV deal they were able to get. So, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they have to take out a loan to cover the payroll last year or something? They're not in great financial shape. And like you said, with the whole, the drama of the ownership between the widow of
Peter Seidler.
Yes, and then of course his brothers. It's going to get weird, and hey, maybe there's an opportunity there. I mean, I don't know what their intentions will be, but I mean, they got guys out there. You got Machado, you got Tatis, Dylan Cease. I'm guessing he will probably hit free agency next year, right? If I'm not mistaken, I don't think they'll extend.
If they don't move him, who knows?
Right. Oh, and maybe they do.
May not be quite as formidable as last year. And then maybe a break for the Giants in the division. And I've never been a big believer in the Diamondbacks. Zach Gallen is going to be a free agent. He was hurt. Merrill Kelly was hurt. And I know they got Corbin Burns. I know that. But I've never quite bought in completely to the Diamondbacks. But the Giants, boy, Adames will be all right. Chapman will be okay. I would have liked to have seen them get a second baseman, put Fitzgerald in the outfield. Someone suggested Matos and McRae fight it out in right. I like that. I like what Matos did in the winter ball.
Yes.
McRae's got to make contact. I don't know if he's at that level to do it. But the thing about the Giants, and I'll say this, having Posey and Randy Wynn sort of at the top, they're not going to put up with any BS.
Right.
They want to win. Now, they may not win because they don't have the horses to win all the time, but they know good ball versus bad ball.
That's fair.
Melvin is the manager, and I think his hands were tied a lot with Farhan, a lot. And the one thing that Posey brings to the table here, it may not be all the deals and redoing the roster and all the stuff like that. That may take him some time to get comfortable. But what it does show me is they're not going to put up with any BS during the season.
Okay.
If they're not listening to the hitting coaches, if they're not doing runner on third, less than 2 out, approaching it. Look, less than third, runner on third, less than 2 out, Posey up. That ball was going to right center.
Yes.
I said it every time. If the guy wanted to go to the right center, he could hit 400.
Yes.
And that's what they want to see. And they're not going to put up with anything less. So the wild card for me with the Giants is the kind of ball they're going to play. And that's going to be different. That's going to be different for me. And I think that's where you want to see some athletes. And what they want to do is teach guys to play baseball the way baseball should be played. And that is move the runner along if you have to do it, sacrifice flies, throw to the right base, go first to third, steal a bag, do these kinds of things. That's a winning team. It's been a winning team for 140 years. That's the way you win in baseball. So Posey brings that to the table. And I think for me, that's going to be the big thing that we're going to go during the season, go, wow, the Giants are playing. They may not be winning all the time, but they're playing better ball. But there are 9 or 10 teams in the mix for the 6 spots. And that's not great. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And, you really have to get out there. Mike O wants to know, do I really think this team will make the playoffs? Right now, no. Mm-hmm. It would have to be a lot of things would have to happen.
A lot of things go right.
The Braves, you don't know if Strider's coming back. Is Acuna coming back? Where the Braves going to be? How good is Jesus Luzardo going to be for the Phillies? What about the Mets and Soto now? Mm-hmm. Are the Cardinals rebuilding and they don't have their players anymore? The Cubs got Kyle Tucker and made some moves. Cubs could be doing something. Pittsburgh still got all that pitching. They're going to give you some trouble. Cincinnati is right there with the Giants.
Right.
Now you got the West. And look, Colorado is no slouch. They gave the Giants all they could handle last year. The Giants won a lot of the games, but they gave them everything they could handle. So do I think the Giants will make the playoffs? No, I don't think they will. But can they? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's why we love baseball, because once all the contracts are signed and all the money is put aside, you got to now play the game.
Right.
You got to have a bullpen, and you got to do the things I just talked about. So Mike O says the Dodgers are the evil empire.
Yeah.
Do I like Justin Verlander? Yeah. He may end up being, just a cheerleader if he gets hurt. Mm-hmm. But I think for whatever it's worth, I'd rather have Flaherty. I'd rather have a real live arm rather than one that, I got to worry about his neck injury and his shoulder and all that stuff. But look, it's rolling the dice, and you'll be able to say to your kid or to your significant other, hey, we saw a Hall of Famer pitch today.
Yeah.
And look, he's not that bad. And they still have a lot of options behind them. So it's not like they signed Verlander and he's going to be their number 1. They signed Verlander and he may be their number 7, because you still got Birdsong and you got Harrison, you got Roop, you got Tristan Beck, you got people who can pitch a little bit. So, yeah, for me, it makes spring training interesting. And if he can help the team win a few games, fine. Yeah,
nice.
I'm okay with it.
Marty, let me ask you this question. There's and I understand the Giants, it's tough to get guys, free agents coming to San Francisco. They were able to get Willy Adames, which was awesome. Are you surprised the Giants were not able to work a trade? I thought for sure they were going to be able to get a trade in there somewhere, specifically for a bat, because I honestly thought Corbin Burns was in the bag. I thought Roki Sasaki was a chance, considering the success Giants have had with starting pitching. Are you surprised or not surprised that they didn't get a trade done?
I'm a little surprised. I'm still surprised they don't do it more often.
Right.
Zach Manassian is the guy now. Zach, come on. You've made a million trades with the Brewers. You got Hader and people like that. And, I'm a little disappointed they may, but we're getting too close to spring training to make trades. But, it's Matos and it's Ramos and Lee is back and you got Yastrzemski still there, and maybe McRae. But, you've got people in the outfield. Fitzgerald could fit out there. You could put Schmidt at second base. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Santander.
Okay.
I would like to see when you flip that lineup, you go, holy shit!
Yes.
Here comes Adames, and here comes Chapman, and here comes Alonso.
Right.
You know,
I got no issues with that. And and talking about the lineup, would you like to see Matos every day in right field and then have Yaz be your bench guy, defensive replacement? I mean,
it may happen that way anyway because he's always hurt.
Right.
So Matos will probably. Mike O wants to know: do I still believe in Luciano? Yeah, I always love the bat. Let me see it. Leave him alone and let me see the bat. In spring training, that's the guy. You just let him swing the bat, as they like to say. Hey, you see, Dave Stewart got a job with the
A's. I saw that.
How about Shooties? Shooties was part of that broadcast team. I don't think they're going to be doing any broadcasting. It'd be nice to see Shooty get a job.
Oh, yeah, because I'd hear him on KMBR occasionally. Shooty Babbitt.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, I think that's enough for us. Ryan did a good job, and as I say, with our sponsors and Rick Robben and Original Joe's, we're going to talk about them a lot. Georgie Brothers. There's so many people who support the show. River Islands. Woe and I'll be on every Sunday morning talking, about River Islands.
Nice.
And then Jenkins and I'll be on, and Mark Simon will be on, Joe Sheehan and people like that. So I'm looking forward to all these shows. Rick Brown says, should they have tried for Josh Naylor? He ended up in Arizona.
Yep.
And he's a legitimate bat. I could see him fitting. Sure. If you want, I want a bat. If he's the guy, fine. But Eric, I think for you and me, the thing to watch before we're on again will be what happens with Pete Alonso.
Yes, that's good. That's the big one right there. I think you said it before. Bregman, probably not a shot. Again, he's looking for that long-term deal.
Yeah, he'll be in Detroit or something.
Yeah. And then, of course, you got Pete. Again, the longer this goes out, maybe the Giants can kind of sneak in there with like you said, maybe a 1-year opt-out, 2-year opt-out. It seems like that's the way to go.
Well, that'd be busting up Wade and Flores.
Yeah.
But I can live with that.
I can live with that.
All right, Ryan, great job of producing the show. We really do appreciate everything he does.
And Eric, Ryan,
I appreciate you being on. You're on every night?
Every night, Marty. I know. I don't know what I was doing, but hey, it's fun. I have a lot of fun.
How do they find you?
Just go to Giants Sports Talk Live on YouTube, and you guys will be able to see us right on there. I think we also got a Twitter as well. Same thing, Giants Sports Talk Live. And you can find us right there. Just type it in YouTube. You'll be able to just hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you guys will be able to see me every time we go on.
Subscribing is a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Hey, Eric, thank you for coming on.
You bet. Thanks, Marty.
All right. That is Eric. That is me.